We start with the AFC, and the headline is this: Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones, two of my favorite players in the league. I love that they were the story for this Chiefs team that held off a Cincinnati team that was able to get momentum back here in the second half. But let's kind of go through the start and then all the controversy throughout it. So the start wasn't great for Cincinnati. Burrow sacked 3 times, and I'm sitting at home going like, why did I think their O-line was just fixed just because of Buffalo? Because it feels like it might have been Buffalo. And that was at least the first quarter. 0 yards gained by Cincinnati, right? When they were down 6-3, I was like, how is this happening? So they did figure some things out, but that O-line part of it was very scary and very reminiscent of Cincinnati and that Tennessee game last year in the playoffs, where I thought Burrow wasn't going to, I thought he was going to have to retire at halftime. Although I would say this about the great quarterbacks: the great ones, when the protection is a problem, the great ones figure it out. The great ones get together with the play caller and maybe the O-line coach and something, be like, okay, here are all of our issues. We need to make the adjustments. A really good NFL coaching staff or a really good quarterback in this league should not get his ass kicked for 3 straight hours. You just call different stuff, get the ball out quicker, bring in other protection. And I thought there were many moments during the broadcast that both Nance and Romo were really good on kind of showing us some of the things that were happening, because after that scary, scary start, Cincinnati figured some things out there. All right. But on 4th and 1 at the Cincy 14, Kelsey touchdown. And you're like, all right, that was pretty big. that was massive. And it just looks so easy too. That's the part that felt so frustrating for the Cincinnati side of it. Cincinnati's first half possessions: punt, field goal, interception. The pick was weird, just kind of a bad looping throw. But Burrow's going to challenge his receivers to go up and get the ball. And that throw didn't really make it. It was just kind of like so odd and fluttery. You were like, oh, wait, he just kind of read that wrong and threw it too much. So then you go field goal, right? So it's punt, field goal, interception, field goal. So that's 2 red zone possessions for Cincinnati against the second worst red zone defense in the NFL this season in regards to touchdown percentage allowed, right? Kansas City second worst, and they're coming out of there with 6. Now, that's the weird thing, right? Dumb NFL again. Clearly, one team feels way better than the other one, and it's a 1-score game, 13-6 at half. So we mentioned that the protection stuff got fixed. Cincinnati's back in the game. Kansas City on the other side lost Snead. They lost Willie Gay. Another corner had gone down for a stretch there as well. He came back in. Always a nice reminder, too, of how tough these guys can be. Like, hey, is that guy done? Like Bosa in the first game, you're like, oh, he might be done. Like, no, he's not done. He's back. Cincinnati did lose Boyd, their number 3 receiver, but we know that between Chase, Higgins, and then Hurst at tight end, and I don't know why I keep thinking of him as Hale Irwin, TV actor, but that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But Irwin, who was a child actor, not named Hale, makes a couple plays a game there, coming on a little bit later. So Cincinnati still, despite losing Boyd, should have enough depth there to find a way to fight through it. Kansas City didn't. Because at this point, they're down Tony, who that was a really weird challenge by Reed early on. You had the one receiver in the history of the NFL who went up for a touchdown and didn't argue he caught it after he didn't catch it. Like, he knew he didn't catch it, and Kansas City still challenged it anyway. They're down Juju, and they're down Mecole Hardman, who had a really weird – he was out later, but he had a really weird kind of back-to-back plays where there was a throw to the right side and Mecole didn't come back enough on it because Mahomes was clearly telling him. Mahomes isn't like Romo during his playing days would definitely kind of point to the receiver and do like this little in move. He'd be like, yeah, you got to cut that in after a bad play. He would do it all the time. I don't think Mahomes does it as much. So when he does do it, I'm more inclined to believe Mahomes. But then I was like, I wonder if he'll go back to him. And then he did. He did on the very next play. And the reason I always think of Mecole Hardman is at one point, Booger McFarland was saying that Kansas City, again, this is previously, was like they need a number 2 for Kansas City. They need a number 2 from Mahomes to go number 2 against Tyreek Hill. And then Mecole tweeted out the notes emoji, like I'm taking notes. Take all the fucking notes you want, bro. It was a fair point, and it was a fair point now. But that means that Mecole's out, Juju's out, Tony's out. So you're left with MVS, who makes big plays. Is better than Hardman is. Kemp, and then Sky Moore, the rookie, who had the huge punt return. But you could see it happening. And I thought this was really interesting if you wanted to watch the game this way, is that you could then watch the way Kelsey was being defended, how tough it was for Kelsey because nobody else is getting open. So Mahomes would be looking for his first or second option. And then it's like, I've got a whole nother group of dudes in here. And it was this momentum that you could feel where you're like, is Cincinnati actually going to pull this out and win a 4th game against these dudes and back-to-back at their place to go to the Super Bowl? So there was this 3-drive run for Kansas City where it was fumble, punt, and punt. On the fumble, if this was a Cincinnati win, that fumble would have been like, if you wanted to go at Mahomes, which I do not, I have no reason to. I'm not determined to. I just don't want to. I wouldn't enjoy going, yeah, well, he fumbled. Like, everybody makes mistakes at some point, but I guess you could argue that Mahomes maybe gets a little looser with the football every now and then. The turnovers in last year's Cincinnati game, so that would have it would all have been packaged up in some repurposed loan and being sold to you as like, this guy gets a little loose with the football, and is it as a problem, right? Like, there can be some things that happen, but then it's like, does it actually mean something? And even on the play where he eventually was ruled down, where he flipped it out to his side, I was like, that was kind of an unnecessary, dangerous play there. I don't know that you needed to do that. So I think those things are true, but the guy's back in the Super Bowl, right? So, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. But in the moment on that fumble, right, there was a small part of me that was like, we have close to $1 billion arm underneath this pile. That's not great. And then from a football standpoint, 48-yard touchdown drive. So that means you've got a 20-20 game, and including in that 48-yard touchdown drive by Cincinnati to tie this one up, a 4th and 6 to Jamar Chase for 35 yards against all sorts of coverage. Now, you could argue 4th and 6, if they pick it off, it's almost like a punt. It's not that big of a deal, but I just think Burrow makes these throws. Burrow will make that kind of throw, and Chase will go up and get you the football. All right. So I think there's some trust there, and that leads into something that happened a little bit later. So now it's 20 apiece. Again, Cincy's touchdown drive for that one, only 48 yards. And now we're led with the mysterious extra third down play for Kansas City, right? So that touchdown drive was 45 yards. All right, so 3rd and 9 at the Kansas City 34. We got 10 minutes left to go in this game. 3rd and 9. It looks like Kelsey is tackled short of the sticks. Cincinnati's defense doing their job again. A really good group. By the way, 4 consecutive games not allowing Mahomes a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Good luck trying to ever do that again. But a ref ran out on the field. Wanted to call the play dead. The overhead view showed that that's exactly what happened. I know it sucks. I know if you're Zach Taylor or anyone on the field or anyone at home or anyone in the stands, I get it. If you're a Cincinnati fan, you're like, are you fucking kidding me? They're going to get an extra third down against Patrick Mahomes? This sucks. But it's what they were trying to do. And to be even more fair, there was a play in the first half where Cincinnati snapped the football, ran the play. Nobody knew what the hell was going on because it was so loud. When people that go to Arrowhead regularly are like, yeah, it was really loud yesterday, that's all you need to know. Maybe the most intimidating place to play in the entire NFL. Right? So it's the extra third down. And then on 3rd and 9, Mahomes gets sacked. You're like, wait, we're good. We're gonna be okay. Except Eli Apple, who just moments ago was talking shit to the sideline, Kansas City sideline, gets called for a hold, which was a very obvious hold, right? Now, when we see these kinds of holds, we're like, why would you do that? Why would you do that on this play? And by the way, the NBA may have, back in the Bennett Salvatore days, gone, well, we gave him an extra third down and they sacked him, and so I'm not going to throw a little makeup call. I like the gray. I like the gray area. I would have liked to, like, if we just gave him an extra third down, even though it was the right thing, it was kind of screwed up, so let's not call a hold on Eli Apple. But they did, because it was pretty egregious, and that was the right call, right? So, and Eli Apple, who lives in this kind of world, when his mistakes happen, they seem to be massive. It's very clear other people don't like him. I don't know if that's what Stephon Diggs' tweet was about while he was at home and Buffalo loses and gets their asses kicked at home after being one of the best teams all season. I don't know how you can be on that team and then go, I'm going to talk shit to Cincinnati for losing in a game that we didn't get to play in. Again, that's this world I don't quite get. So Apple's hit with a penalty. Here's the point. They still got Kansas City to punt. They gained 1 yard, 1 total yard after that on the next 3 plays. All right? Then Burrow throws the interception, double coverage Higgins. The Higgins touchdown earlier, he was covered. I did think a little bit about Higgins and that throw. Did he fight enough? But it was just a weird pick where it was tipped from one guy to the other guy. Would Chase have gone up and made sure he got it and fought for it? Yeah, I had that thought. I think it's a little unfair, but I wrote it down, so I'm sharing it with you. Okay, Kansas City gets the ball back, right? After the pick. In this series, we're under 7 minutes to go. Putting a drive together, back up their own 14, right? we're looking at a 3rd and 12, right? A 3rd and 12, which turns into a 4th and 8 at the Cincy 37, but there's a hold on Creed Humphrey. So now you're thinking, all right, do I take the penalty? Because at this point, we're looking at a 55-yard field goal attempt. All right. If you're Taylor, you got to think through all these things. I also wonder how much he could see on the sideline as far as which units they were going to send in. Because originally on the broadcast, it looked like he was going to accept the penalty. So I'm at home going, okay, accept the penalty. Field goal's completely out of the realm of possibility. But now you're looking at what, like 3rd and 18, and it's still Mahomes. And that means you're going to have to defend what? Against a deep shot. And then all the stuff underneath, you're going to have more room. So it really could be 2 plays here. And who knows, they might be in a better situation. They could be at 4th and 2 and then kick an easier field goal, despite the fact that Butker apparently wasn't hitting anything past 53 yards in warmups. So all of these things are happening. And I'm trying to figure it out. And then ultimately, once it's declined, and then it's punted, which on some of the punting stuff that I was seeing on Monday morning, is considered one of the most cowardly punts of the last 20 years, which I think is ignoring a lot of like real on the field factors with all of this, including Butker's warmups on top of everything else. But if you're Taylor, you're going, okay, you lucked out unless you already could tell that they were going to actually, they weren't going to kick the field goal. Right. I don't know how much he knew in that moment from it all. But if the end of the discussion on your sideline, if you're Cincinnati, is like, hey, Mahomes doesn't get another shot at this and we get the ball back, that's end of discussion instead of backing him up and taking the extra 10 yards. But once you knew they weren't going to kick the field goal, then it makes it a lot easier. But clearly, Kansas City didn't love their options. And that's why I think some of the models are a little unfair in how aggressively they've labeled that punt there for Kansas City. Although we would be talking about it a lot if this game had gone the other way. So now Cincinnati has the football back again. They end up converting a 3rd and 16 when it didn't look like there was any chance. I'm like, man, Cincinnati's actually going to pull this game off. This is fucking crazy. That's not the case. Chris Jones on the last offensive play that this unit ran sacks with, I don't believe, any extra pressure from Spagnuolo, which I kept waiting on because it's all I've seen throughout his entire career. I think if you looked at the pressure numbers in this one, maybe even later, I don't know what they were, but on that one, Jones was lined up in the left defensive end. And Jones, 5 QB hits, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 holding calls drawn, and an intentional grounding, where I did think P. Ryan was in the area, although that one doesn't matter as much. So let's go to the infamous now last series here for Kansas City on the game-winning field goal. Great return by Sky Moore, puts him at midfield. It's 3rd and 4. Mahomes runs to the right side. He needs it. And Osai, who I loved in college, who had been awesome all day long, hits Mahomes out of bounds late. I hate the sideline out of bounds flag. I just hate it. I really hate it when everybody seems to get it when it's their sideline, right? And especially at home. If your guy gets hit on your sideline and everybody freaks out in their khakis and Pegasus Zooms, then you always get that flag. And it was a little late on this one. I also wondered if there was a little bit of the NBA flagrant foul thing where the way Mahomes went down made it even worse, and then the flag was going to come out. Here's the thing. As much as I hate that flag, it's kind of the right flag, man. It was kind of the right flag. Field goal, game, blouses. So there's more to this that I want to talk about, because since that's happened, there's way too much on the refs. There's way too much on the refs. And why do we do this? Well, I'll run through a bunch of things here, because if you go and review, like Sunday Twitter, I don't enjoy. And for you that don't have it, good for you. Because it's just, everyone's a fucking ref expert, right? Because we like to feel like we can point out the things that are wrong. We like to feel involved, right? It's like my cocktail party thing where nobody goes, oh, I don't have enough information on that topic. I'll hang out until you guys talk about something I'm aware of, right? And I just don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy everybody bitching about the refs the entire time, because to me, it's inevitable, right? Punishment is inconsistent in life. Things that are going to happen, like there are going to be mistakes that are made, and to lose it that way is heartbreaking. But it wasn't necessarily the wrong call. The extra 3rd down, you actually worked out, and you still punted it. You know, there's a bunch of little plays here and there that we could all nitpick from. Hell, the Lakers got a non-call against the Celtics for LeBron, and he got hacked. He got hacked. The Lakers haven't let it go. This shit's going to go on for a week. LeBron was reenacting Macbeth on the Boston Garden there for like 2 minutes at the end. Like, it's the most egregious thing we've ever. Are they the only team that's never not had a call go their way? And I don't give a shit because of the Boston LA thing. You've listened to me long enough. You know I don't give a shit. But what I do care about is this quest to solve something that I don't know that's all that solvable. We want robot umps in baseball. Everybody fucking hates everything that happens in soccer. Everybody hates NBA refs until they watch college refs. And then every conference in college football thinks their refs are the worst, except for the SEC, because they don't think anything they do is bad. And then you have the NFL thing where it's like, make them full time. We need to revisit this entire thing. You know what's funny is Mark Cuban was like the total outsider when he bought the Dallas Mavericks. And he comes in, like a lot of fans, going, all the refs suck. Right? He's like, we need to overhaul the entire thing. We need to do this. And he starts pointing out these inefficiencies. When the fact is, when you look at officiating, it's the easiest thing to point out inefficiencies because there will forever be inefficiencies. There will always be things that are wrong with it. And that's just kind of where I'm at, over hanging out here going, you guys can bitch about it all day long and pretend that's the outcome because it's easier to blame something else than blaming yourself, which is another tenet that I've had for years, is that no one of us ever really want to say, hey, you know what? Why that guy's doing better than me? He works harder than me. That guy does better than me because he's better at his job. He's just better than I am, right? It's hard to do all of those things. Why does that guy have a hotter girlfriend than me? Oh, his dad has money. I don't know. Maybe he's nicer. Maybe he's not a dick. Maybe he's better at talking to people than I am. Why is that guy jacked? Oh, he's on shit. Do you know that? Maybe he works harder. You know what I mean? Like, nobody ever wants to go, hey, they beat us. You know, Burrow had the ball a couple times there late. We couldn't do anything with it. Mahomes is better than Burrow. That's not necessarily what happened yesterday, right? But there was this weird push this season for like Allen to be thought of as better than Mahomes, right? Or Burrow to be better than Mahomes. And it's another one of the rules of the job, right? Like if you come into the production meeting and you're like, you know, I think Burrow might be better than Mahomes. Like fucking really? Okay, A block, done. And we're going to do a breakout clip of that. If I wanted more breakout clips, I could have said early in the season, hey, Mahomes is third behind Allen. Then everybody's fucking talking about me all day. I never believed it. I never thought it. I didn't even like picking against him. I hate picking against that guy. That's why I'm probably not going to pick against him in the Super Bowl. So if there was a headline from this game, the headline is that I don't want to hear any more of like somebody's at this dude's level stuff anymore. I just don't. Burrow's really good. He's special. Could he surpass him? Probably not to me. Could Allen? No, not to me. Was it close this year? I guess maybe at times. I guess there's a guy who used to play the position, a few youth that played quarterback that understand it far better than I am, that maybe see some different shit. But my headline, my biggest takeaway from Sunday is I don't want to flirt with anybody messing around with Mahomes anymore. I just don't. Because what that guy did on his ankle, missing the receivers, trying to figure out on the fly, and then making the play that mattered the most. And yeah, the Osai flag sucks. But when you're talking about the competition and the adrenaline and all being combined and trying to make a play on the sideline and so freaked out that Mahomes is going to break one, like you get why Osai did it. It wasn't egregious, but it's the rule. But that's not why you lost. You lost because that guy's behind center for Kansas City. He's going to be there a really long time. Let's do the NFC. The game was over at 7:02 of the first quarter. And that's today's open.